Hey there. So today I want to talk about something that doesn't get enough attention when it comes to VBACs in the hospital and birthing in the hospital in general, and that is hospital staffing. So you might think that your VBAC success and the likelihood that you're going to have a VBAC is all about how well you prepare physically and mentally, how your body responds during labor. But there really is another piece of this puzzle that you need to know about. So in today's episode, I'm going to discuss a recent study that was done in Nursing Outlook and the truth about how hospital staffing can impact your VBAC experience and why it's just as important as everything else you do to prepare for your birth. I'm your host, Hannah Gill, and this is Motherhood Flow. So you may not have considered that nurse staff levels can play a huge role on your VBAC success. But a recent study, like I said in Nursing Outlook, showed that when labor and delivery units are properly staffed, C-section rates go down by up to 11%. In the study, it showed the overall rate of VBACs and vaginal birth were higher when there were enough nurses present on the unit. So that means that your VBAC chances aren't just about your body or your preparation or your mind, or if you have a doula or if your partner's prepared or how your labor was before. A lot of it can come down to whether the hospital has enough staff to support you through labor and birth. So just really think about that. So if there aren't enough nurses to staff and go around, they're going to be spread thin, they're going to have a larger caseload, and that means they might not have enough time or ability to provide continuous labor support, to help you move around, to monitor your progress closely. And all of these factors can really lead to unnecessary interventions and ultimately more C-sections, even if they're not medically necessary. So just think about when a hospital is well staffed, nurses can give you more personalized care. They can help you change positions, encourage movement, provide hands-on comfort measures, and that can really help your labor progress more smoothly. And these are the kinds of things that are huge and impactful for having a VBAC. But really, the takeaway from that is that the hospital staffing situation can have an impact on your VBAC experience, and the more support you have, the more likely you are to avoid unnecessary interventions and stick to your birth plan. So if you're planning to VBAC in the hospital, choosing the right hospital and having the right support team is just as important as everything else you do to prepare. And I understand in some areas, you may not really have a choice in the hospital that you go to. There are maternity deserts where you may have to drive a long way to get to an adequate hospital. There are hospitals that are clearly not VBAC supportive, so you may not want to birth there anyway. So I know that these options are limited in some areas, but if you have a choice in the hospital you get to go to, do the research. You might be prepared physically and mentally for the birth, but if the hospital staff is overwhelmed and they're understaffed, it'll be harder to stick to your plans and have the support you need to do that. Now, if you don't have a doula or a well-prepared partner, it's even more easy to get lost in that system. So you might find that decisions are being made for you rather than with you. And when it comes to VBAC, you need all the support you can get. You need a strong support system that is ready to advocate for your wishes, even if the hospital is understaffed. So that's why it's so important, not necessarily that you have a doula. I mean, doulas are great. I am a doula. They have huge benefits in changing birth outcomes. But if you can't have a doula for some reason, then make sure your partner or your other support person is prepared in the same way. So when choosing a hospital, do not be afraid to ask about the nurse to patient ratios for labor and delivery, because that's so important for you to know. If they hesitate to answer, that is a red flag. You have every right to know how many nurses will be available to support you during labor. And then make sure, like I said, if you have a doula, but if you don't have a doula or a knowledgeable birth partner who's ready to advocate for you, then get them prepared for that. If hospital staff is low, your team can really bridge that gap and help ensure you're getting the support that you need and deserve. And then know your rights. If you feel rushed into an intervention, ask if it's truly necessary or if it's a matter of convenience due to staffing issues. Ask about different options, because it's important to advocate for yourself and asking questions like, is this the only option? Are there other approaches we can do first? This can really start opening up that conversation and having true informed consent. So really, your ability to have a VBAC isn't just about how well you prepare. Although that, I feel like that is the most important part. it's also about the system that you're birthing in. And unfortunately, it's not fair, but it's the reality of many hospital births and the logistics that surround that. So you need to be prepared for these challenges and how to advocate for yourself every step of the way if it comes down to something like that. And I'm not saying every hospital is understaffed, but there are areas where they are frequently understaffed. So this is really why preparation and advocacy preparation are so important. It's why I'm passionate about helping moms feel empowered in their VBAC preparation. So if you are planning a VBAC in the hospital, make sure you consider everything when you're preparing, from hospital staffing to the support team you're going to have, your birth plan, etc. So if you're wanting to learn more about advocacy and how to do that in your VBAC prep, you can grab the individual advocacy module from my program, VBAC is Your Birthright. And you can get that at thehannahgill.com/work-with-me. And that is work-with-me. Again, that is my individual advocacy module from my entire program. And you can grab those individually, thehannahgill.com/work-with-me. So what are your thoughts on how hospital staffing can affect your VBAC? And have you considered that impact during your preparation? Let me know your thoughts. You can DM me on Instagram because I'd love to hear what thoughts this brings up to you, if this brings up any concerns for you and your hospital and where you are birthing. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found this episode helpful or valuable, be sure to share it with someone who needs to hear it and who could also benefit from it. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Until next time, keep flowing. You just finished another episode of Motherhood Flow. For more, head over to thehannahgill.com or on Instagram @thehannahgill. As a reminder, this podcast is provided to you for educational and entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered a substitute for medical advice. Until next time, keep flowing.